It's 2 a.m. You told yourself you'd go to bed an hour ago, but here you are, scrolling through short-form videos, checking notifications that don't really matter, and refreshing a feed that never ends. You feel tired, perhaps even a little numb, yet you can't stop. Why? Because your brain is currently being hacked. Not by a computer virus, but by a neurochemical that was designed to keep you alive in the wilderness, now being weaponized against you by some of the most sophisticated algorithms on the planet. Today, we are talking about dopamine. We're going to peel back the curtain on how social media has hijacked your reward system, why your baseline is crashing, and how you can take your brain back. To understand the problem, we have to clear up a massive misunderstanding. Most people think dopamine is about pleasure. They think it's the chemical that makes you feel high when you eat a donut or get a like. But science tells a different story. Dopamine is not the molecule of pleasure. It is the molecule of craving, motivation, and pursuit. It is the chemical of more. In evolutionary terms, dopamine was the signal that told our ancestors, hey, there might be food over that hill, go get it. It's about the anticipation of a reward, not the reward itself. In the brain, this primarily happens in the mesolimbic pathway. When you see a notification icon, your brain releases a surge of dopamine. It's the itch that makes you want to click. Once you click and see the content, the dopamine actually begins to drop. Why is social media so much more addictive than, say, reading a book? It comes down to a psychological concept called variable ratio reinforcement. Think of a slot machine. If a slot machine paid out $5 every single time you pulled the lever, you'd get bored. But because it pays out randomly, sometimes nothing, sometimes a little, sometimes a jackpot, your brain stays locked in a state of perpetual seeking. Social media apps are digital slot machines. The refresh, pulling down to refresh your feed, is the same physical motion as pulling the lever on a slot machine. The likes. You don't know if your last post got 0 likes or 100. That uncertainty creates a massive dopamine spike. The infinite scroll. By removing natural stopping points, like the end of a page, the brain never receives the signal to stop and evaluate its behavior. Here is where it gets dangerous. Your brain functions on a principle called homeostasis. It wants to stay balanced. Imagine your mood is a seesaw. On one side is pleasure/motivation, on the other is pain/lethargy. When you experience a massive spike in dopamine from a 30-minute TikTok binge, your brain tries to compensate by pushing down on the pain side of the seesaw to bring you back to level. This is called the dopamine baseline. When you overstimulate your reward system with high-intensity digital inputs, your brain doesn't just return to 0, it overcorrects. It drops below your normal baseline. This is why, after hours of scrolling, you feel empty, irritable, or bored with real life. If you do this every day, your brain eventually lowers its permanent baseline to protect itself. This leads to a state called anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from simple, everyday things like a walk in the park or a conversation with a friend. Nothing real can compete with the artificial intensity of the digital world. Beyond just feeling down, this constant dopamine hunting is destroying our ability to think deeply. Deep work and learning require a steady, low-level release of dopamine. It's a slow burn. But social media trains your brain to expect a hit every 6 to 15 seconds. When you try to sit down and read a complex book or work on a difficult project, your brain essentially goes into withdrawal. It screams for the fast dopamine it's been conditioned to receive. We are losing our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for impulse control and long-term planning, to the amygdala and the reward centers. We are becoming more impulsive, less patient, and increasingly anxious. So, is the answer to throw your phone into the ocean and live in a cave? Not necessarily. But we do need to perform a system reset. Here are 3 science-backed ways to reclaim your dopamine. The dopamine fast, or reset. Try to spend 24 hours, or even just a full morning, with 0 digital stimulation. No phone, no music, no podcasts. Let your brain get bored. Boredom is the space where creativity and natural dopamine recovery happen. It allows your seesaw to return to a true horizontal level. Friction is your friend. Apps are designed to be frictionless. You need to put the barriers back up. Grayscale mode. Turn your phone to black and white. It makes the icons look like poison to your brain instead of candy. Delete the infinite apps. If you must use social media, do it on a desktop browser. The clunkier the experience, the less addictive it is. Seek tonic over phasic rewards. Focus on activities that provide a slow, sustained release of dopamine. Exercise, learning a new skill, or gardening. These don't give you the spike and crash cycle. They lift your overall baseline over time. The architects of social media know exactly how your brain works. They use your biology to keep your eyes glued to the screen because your attention is their product. But your brain is plastic. It can change. By understanding that dopamine is about pursuit and not satisfaction, you can stop being the pursued and start being the pursuer of a life that actually fulfills you. Put the phone down. Let the silence in. Your brain will thank you.